Hi, I'm Robin Gully.
I'm John Justin.
We are your Ward 2 council people here to give you the council recap for the 24th of February,
2025.
2025.
Yes.
I don't know where that came from. It's a throwback.
It's warm outside. I get squirrely and confused easily, and when it gets nice, because I hate the winter so much.
Yeah. So most of what we did today, just like last time we were meeting, was an open council work session where we talked about a number of different things. We started off with a discussion of our boards and commissions, and if you watched the last meeting or if you watched the last council recap, we talked about this quite a bit. We had the most amazing group of applicants for our boards and our committees and commissions that we've had since I've been on the council.
Yeah, no, I've never seen that many applicants for sure.
We had fully, I think, roughly 25 applicants for committees and commissions, and I have to say that every single person who came in front of us, that's all of you if you're watching this, every single person was highly qualified, thoughtful, had things that they wanted to bring to the city, brought like their own things that they were interested in, and we would have been lucky to have every single person. Unfortunately, at this moment, we don't have enough spots.
Yeah, I think we only had 8 open spots, so 25 people to choose from, 8 open spots, some of whom had different rankings of which commission they prefer. It's and word balance and a lot of things all figures into it. So it is really not. It's great to have such a not easy decision.
Yeah.
It's not easy to do, but it's so much better than the possibility of like, well, we've got 8 people and 8 spots, and so we're going to slot everybody in.
Which has happened.
Or we haven't even had enough people to fill all of the open spots. So, and not that any of those people that got appointed are not good. That's not what I'm saying, but it's a good problem to have more to work with than you need when it comes to this sort of volunteer commissions. And I will tell you from knowing people in other cities, that is not generally the case. It is rare that you are overwhelmed by volunteer applications.
So here's what I want to say. To the people who got appointed tonight, thank you so much for coming in front of us and for the work that you're going to do for the city. For the folks who applied and came in and interviewed and you didn't get a spot this time, thank you so much for the work that you did to apply, and please stay involved. We're gonna try to find ways for everyone to like ask you to be involved in the city, but also we'd love to see you at council meetings, at any of the meetings for the committees or commissions, and then we'd love to see you come and apply again. So there were so many considerations, and ultimately we ended up doing a ranked choice ballot where we each sort of assigned points to the people that we thought would be the best. But best was not just it was partially like who were the best candidates. It was partially how did people rank what committees they wanted to serve on. It was partially
what ward were they in?
What ward did they live in, and trying to create some ward balance. So even if you didn't get on, it actually might not have anything to do with what we thought of you as a candidate.
Yeah.
And so please apply again, and we'll try to continue to find more ways for folks to get involved.
And just for clarification, we're not actually going to give the names of anybody that was appointed. Reason being, I don't want this video to be the first way that somebody finds out that they didn't get on or got on a committee. Staff is going to be reaching out to everybody, making a really concerted effort that they reach out to you and tell you where you landed and all of that stuff. So we're not ignoring you because we don't want to talk about you, but I don't want to have somebody turn this video on and go like, oh. So we're going to leave that up to staff. But thank you so much again for trying to serve the city in the ways that you do, and keep trying. We'll get you there. We'll get you there.
Yeah, and we really appreciate
And if you have expertise in those fields and you didn't end up on that commission, all of them have a public comment period. Please come in. You are going to see things that we don't see, that maybe the committee doesn't see. We'd love that input. You're always welcome. Anybody in the public is, but particularly if you were invested enough to apply, I would love it if you were invested enough to kind of come to some meetings, share some of your ideas. We love that. We can, and staff will work from those. That's what we build a lot of our stuff off of. So
And if you didn't get around to applying this time for any reason, right? You decided that it wasn't your time, you didn't have the time to devote to it, you just didn't get your application in, whatever. Apply next time.
Yep, we'll have rotating openings, so it's not like this is, for 4 years there's no openings for you. There's always openings that come up pretty much almost every year, I think.
Yep.
So, yeah.
So
keep in there. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. And then we talked about, so we've talked about this quite a few times in the last few months, but we talked about low-income rental classification called 41. That's for the letter D, 1.
Numeral 1, not 40I, which I keep thinking it is because apparently I don't read well, but I have no idea what 41 stands for. I should probably know, but maybe it's just a random string of characters. Why not? Whatever.
I don't know.
So we probably don't need to go deep into that. I think we talked about it before. What we kind of set forward this time was a pretty structured idea of how we're going to determine when it comes to the point where council is determining what our priorities are, why we are doing what we're doing, and the focus is going to be not giving it to new build stuff. The focus is going to be using it as renovation and improvements for existing built spaces. And the only real exception to that is if something came across where there is a huge community benefit that actually kind of equals that value in reduced tax capacity. If somebody was to, as a joke at one point was kind of made, build a pool, and we'll get into that in a second. We might go, hey, you know what, you can have 41 because you're bringing a huge amenity that's commensurately valuable to the community.
Not offering any specific ideas.
No. But it's going to be a pretty high bar because really, the way we interpret it, this is the best way to use this tool is for new builds, because new builds are the ones that will need maintenance, will need security modifications, modernizations, improvements on the building, better grounds, better landscaping, better this, better that. So it's
and just
kind of the best way to look at it, I think.
And so we've talked about this quite a bit before, but 41 is effectively like we can basically say, if you're a property owner, you don't have to pay a certain amount of your property tax in a given year if you will take that money and reinvest it in your building, and if you're offering affordable housing.
Yes.
And so today what we did in the discussion, and I want to say go watch it, actually
I can't remember if we had the cameras on yet by that point.
We're not working today during open council work session, but you can listen to it. And if you listen to the conversation, we went over what some of the guidelines that we want to have as a council about how we want to use this 41 classification. And so it's really good. It's an important conversation, and it's all about keeping housing affordable, making it more affordable, and also making sure that there are investments happening.
I don't think that we've ever said this before because I think it just slipped my mind, but one thing to know is 41 is not a city created thing. This is something that came down from on top. It's something that all cities are going to have to take a look at. So it's not like we went out and we're like, hey, let's make up this 41 thing. This is something that comes from above us.
And we actually have to approve it to a certain point.
So, and I think we got into that
talked about a couple
before, but that's where we're at is now we're trying to getting down the details of how does an application come to us that fits this? How do we ensure that we've got benchmarks to say you are doing what you said you were going to do, you are maintaining the affordability, you are improving your buildings in a way that is measurable, is not just profit increased, but actually just reinvesting in the buildings, which is one of our, we'll see what our strategic priorities are this year, but it's been one of ours, is maintaining and improving quality affordable housing. And so this is one way to do it, is to get some of those apartments that may be showing a little bit of age and give a carrot to really kind of bring them up to kind of a more modernized code, so they're better places for people to live, it's better places to be neighbors of, and everybody hopefully wins when we do that. So you'll hear about 41 plenty more I guarantee you.
The next thing that we talked about, and the other big thing that came up in these meetings today, was about the pool. So a lot of you know our city pool is in desperate need of some TLC. The last time we did a major renovation on it was 1999, and it's a 1950s pool. And 1999, for those who are counting, was 26 years ago.
Yep.
So it's been a while. So we hired a consulting firm to talk to us about options for the pool. The short story is that they're all very expensive.
Well, the ones that aren't expensive are getting rid of decommissioning the pool, that's the inexpensive one. I think I can safely say, and I hope I'm not stepping out over anybody, there's no one on the council that is interested, nor is staff, in decommissioning the pool. So I think that's technically an option if you see it in the packet. It's not an option that anybody is even considering, as far as I can tell. So you don't worry that we're going to be like, boy, that's expensive.
Well, that's too
Never
bad.
mind, no more pool. And then one other quick thing that I got brought up tonight, I don't think it gets out there, because I have heard from people about maintenance that's not been being done, paint, things like that. There was a really good point brought up by our parks director where he was like, some of that has been deferred because we know that we need to do the big scale thing. And I will talk about kind of the death by 1,000 cuts aspect of your continually reinvesting money in something that isn't structurally sound. It costs a lot more than
doing that,
getting it actually done. So if you've seen things that seem to be lacking in maintenance, one of the things that I know is that the slide is basically judged inoperable. So we will not have a slide at the pool this summer. Sorry to ruin that all for you, but we were basically told this is unsafe, unusable. And so if you're wondering, well, why don't you just buy another slide? A slide's $250,000. I didn't know slides cost that much, but here we are. So it makes no sense for us to patch the slide rather than just reconstructing the existing slide or doing whatever we're going to do with whatever choice we make. But just so people because I think sometimes people worry that we're just letting the pool go by the wayside. And I think there are times in the past in the city where maybe it has gone by the wayside. That's not what we're trying to do. So if you notice that something isn't being repainted as often or whatever, it's not because we don't think it's important. It's because it's fiscally irresponsible for us to continue to, if you have a junker car that has 275,000 miles on it, you are not going to replace the transmission. Sort of the same sort of situation we're talking about here, if this makes sense.
So here were the main options that came in front of us. And we would love to hear what folks think about it. Although I will say that these numbers don't mean a lot outside of the context of what would it look like to actually fund or finance it. Right? Even I was like, oh yeah, okay, so let's talk about how we actually do it. There were really two solid options in front of us. The first one they called the 25-year renovation. Costs at a baseline with not a lot of the extras that we would of course to do, like landscaping and things like that. But the baseline 25-year renovation that they call it is $1.3 million. So we need $1.3 million to keep the pool, to get it to a place with the slide renovation.
Yeah, the slide, you're getting the slide back.
The slide will come back.
In either renovation plan.
But $1.3 million gets us a functional pool for, I assume the 25-year renovation means for about the next 25 years. And then we'll have to do something again. Which is about what we got from 1999.
Yep.
So 26, The other option is the 50-year renovation plan, and that at a baseline is $4 million, which does not mean that we couldn't spend quite a lot more than $4 million.
I think it's 4.3 maybe, but yeah.
And we saw some examples of cities that have done pool renovations and redone their pools that have been really beautiful. Some of them cost quite a bit more than $4 million.
I mean, the smallest one was 6 million, 12 million, somewhere in that range. And those were almost more in the replacement than renovation. There was some stuff that was maintained, but some stuff that was replaced. Renovation's really not going to be replacement. It would be some, the more expensive renovation would include some site modifications, maybe some different aspects to the pool. The 1.3 really gets you, here's the pool that you know, and it's fully functional, it's safe, It's operational. We won't have to keep chopping away forever and spending money to patchwork everything. So 1.3 gets you pool as is, but brought back to what it would have been like in 1999.
Right.
Everything fully functional, everything, all of that stuff.
The $4 million baseline gets us a pool that it's a lot better, but it's also a lot more expensive.
Yep. And it's still going to be substantially similar to what we have right now. But there would be more of a site plan option, more of a chance to move things around, maybe build some different things into it.
And things like
but
that.
it's not getting you. Some of the requests I saw were a lazy river. We're not, even at the 4.3 million, we're probably not getting a lazy river. We're probably not getting these big ideas. We love those big ideas. Please keep bringing them to us. But just so everybody knows where we're at, when you're talking that sort of large amenity increase, there's two things. You're really getting into that higher cost replacement, and almost inherently you would lose. Now there's some green space there. I've talked to some people that have said, we really like the green space. It's just green space. It's just open. You can picnic out, you can do whatever. And so I had people talk to me like, if you're gonna, replace or do this with the pool, please don't cut into the green space. So that's part of the problem too, is a replacement project, that green space is going to almost certainly be significantly impeded on. So it's not as easy as just like, there's always a give and take on these things, right? So, and maybe if people want to tell me they don't care about that green space, I've gotten contacts where people were concerned that that green space was just gonna get, not exist. And so there's a lot of moving parts. That's the fun.
Where we would love to hear from you. And we've done a ton of surveys in the city.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'll just say, like, all of this is taking into account what we've already heard from community members. I think, let me say that we've gotten like 400 survey results.
There's a lot. Yeah.
And so all of this is taking into account what people, but like, it's a little bit different when you hear the numbers and you're like, okay, so for this we get this, for this we get this. What do you think?
And this is one of those unfortunate points where, you hear about wants and needs, right? We all would want a really incredible pool with a ton of new features. But I don't want to lose sight of that want can't overshadow the need of, we have a bunch of people in our community that really need to have access to that pool. And so I would worry that if we went hyper ambitious, and I love high ambition, and maybe there's funding sources and whatever, but what I worry about is I do not want to lose the amenity of the pool because it takes us 5 years to figure out how to fund something that maybe never happens. And now we're just deeper into the hole. So I mean, it's not fun to balance those two sides, and we'd love to do all the wants, right? Everybody would love it if we could just build everything we wanted. But we have to take a look at this. Money has to come from somewhere. It has to come from taxpayers. It has to come from reallocation from other parks, which also we don't want to do.
That we're worried about sacrificing is that we're like in the middle of putting together a really killer parks plan, and like really thinking about how we invest in our parks and make them like unique spaces, every single one of them, and are very excited about that. And so we don't at this moment necessarily want to, because that's going to take a ton of investment. So we're not, so ordinarily, we're not a kick the can down the road council.
Yes, agreed.
We do not want to just keep like patching over the holes
and spending more of your money in the process, which is what happens when you do that.
We want to like really like fix things in earnest and like do a good job. Which actually, like, I think the $1.3 million plan like does do that. It gets us back to a level set, like this is a good pool.
Yeah, it's not a Band-Aid. It's not like this is the least we could possibly do. This is a fully endorsed by the people that did this study. They're like, this is a totally acceptable option, and it would give you 25 years of maintaining what you've had with this pool, with some brightening, freshening, probably some extra signage. At least I'm guessing I'm going to push for that in there. So just so you understand, 1.3 isn't like, okay, we're going to do the least thing we can do. The least thing we could do would be to continue to just patch it and spread that money out. But it is showing its age to a point where we are kind of past the point of patching and that being a responsible choice.
We're already going to lose our slide this summer, and we don't want
Yeah.
to do that.
Right, exactly,
Like,
exactly.
There's probably nothing that we can do about it for this summer.
Yep.
But we want to bring everything back to life.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
in whatever way we do it. But also, like, we're trying to decide how do we balance, like, what we want from this with what we want from other things. So
there's not an infinite pool of money. Oh God, I didn't even mean to do the pool thing. That was so inadvertent.
Really
and I apologize for that now. Okay.
Moving on.
Yell at me later. I understand.
All right. So then we got into the council meeting, and honestly, a lot of this stuff is stuff that we've recently talked about, and is not. It's not like super fun, interesting stuff. But we'll go through it anyway. Oh, okay. Well, of course, we did vote to appoint people to the committees and commissions.
Yep.
So that was good. And then we talked about rezoning 33 Wentworth from B3 to B6. Do you want to?
Yeah, I can jump. I can jump in here.
They just
So
went through planning
I know a lot of
commission.
people have eyes on 33 Wentworth, and there's a lot of opinions and a lot of people telling us their opinions, which I again really appreciate. And so I do want to say, and this isn't indicating what direction anything in the future goes, but just so people understand, the rezoning request, I know it feels like you can just say, nope, and like, if that was something we didn't want to do, I'm not saying that, but rezoning is way more complicated than you think, and there are way more legal strictures on it than I would have ever known before I was on the council, and there's really no legally conforming way to turn down this rezoning because of the CUP that's in place, or not the CUP, the comprehensive plan and a few other things. This is targeted for being rezoned mixed use. So if we have a request to rezone it to mixed use and it's already supposed to get rezoned mixed use, we really don't have anything that we can do to turn that down. And so that was the only part with 33 Wentworth that came up tonight. There are two additional things. There's the replatting and the CUP that will come up in a future meeting. So if you have feelings and things you want to talk about on this, it's not like this was your, it's all done and it's passed through and whatever. We'll see where it goes. We can't ever predict what the decisions will be, but just people get confused about that. I get asked all the time, well, why can't you just not rezone it? I'm like, because we're legally required to follow the rules that we've set for ourselves and that previous councils have set for the vision of the city, and we have, so just so everybody understands it, because I know it's confusing, and I think I've seen plenty of things in procedural dramas and whatever, where it's like, oh, they're just not going to rezone it and they saved the playground, and I wish it was that easy, and it's just not. So look for more on that. I don't know if it'll be the next meeting or the meeting after that. It's kind of in the developer's hands now for when they come back on that. We did pop over another thing that I think that people would be interested, which is Net Ministries.
Oh, yeah.
And this is kind of a complicated thing, and I don't know that we want to get super deep in the paint on this. The short version is,
we did talk about this last time.
yeah, we passed an extension. That extension still has the same teeth in it about if a purchase is not made of this additional house, it is not adding an additional house. It is replacing a house that is kind of outside in a different neighborhood. And so if this other house sells one way or the other, that will change the status of this, the currently existing house that they're using on Bidwell. And so none of that clawback language was taken out. We still kept a timeline for when we'll re-examine this. And we will hold to those standards. If this gets outside of what can be done, then there will be changes at the Bidwell location. And it's so complicated. Short version is, if this were not to go through with this, given the extension to move forward, the likelihood is more property would be purchased by Net Ministries, because they would not be able to keep 10 people in that. They'd have to have 3 people. So they need 2 minimal additional houses. They appear to have the funding to do that. And so that would turn from $1.8 million of non-taxable property to 2.9, I think, was the estimate that we had. So in the grand scheme of things, if this works the way that it's been kind of guided to do up until now, it's actually the best case scenario for maintaining our tax base in the city, which is super important to us. And so just if people are wondering about the rationale behind that, there was a pretty good description by our city manager that I think summed up where we ended up on that tonight and what we were looking at from the table. But of course, we're always interested in feedback. If you're not happy with that, we understand, and reach out. I'm happy to explain it further if you're still mystified about what actually the mechanism is, because it's complicated. But I think it's the best case scenario for the city and for the people that are carrying the tax burden of our city to move forward with the plan that we have now that was enacted in 2018 by the council at that time, which I think predates all of us. Yeah, both of us. So, all right, but I knew that might be something you were tuning in to check on because you might have a vested interest in that. And so, like I said, reach out to any of us, whether it's, reach out to me, even if I'm not your ward, I don't care.
Yeah.
And vice versa. I think pretty much everybody on the council is open for that conversation.
Yeah, definitely. The last thing was some property line adjustments. I don't think that anyone will have feelings
The
about this,
people that are directly affected by this are all in agreement with doing these two property line adjustments. One's between two houses. It looks a little strange, but it's a way for somebody to move forward with a very agreeable neighbor, and it's the best case scenario for everybody involved. I think everybody negotiated in good faith. I love it when two neighbors work out something like this and actually clearly both just want the other person to be happy, and it helps us a lot. And so I'd say that would describe that. And then the other one was sort of a office industrial area, commercial buildings, and it's just redrawing lines. So a parking lot for this building is all on their property versus originally it was all owned by the same group. And so it didn't matter where the property lines, they just cleaned it up to put the property lines. So if any of those parcels are sold, so it would basically make it so they didn't have to do easements of like, oh, okay, you own 11 of my parking spots, and now I have to pay you this much money a month to access my parking that you can't access because you're on the other side of a green space from it. So it was, again, sometimes we have these very rote, routine, logical things we do. This, to me, that was absolutely that. I mean, there was pretty much no discussion at the Planning Commission. There was no discussion here because you look at it and you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Why would you not do that? Nobody will be happier if we don't do this. Exactly.
Yeah,
so, and that was it for the meeting.
That was it.
All right. Well,
thanks everyone.
Have a great night. Thanks.
Reach out if you